From the center of the universe, now in its 7th season covering your 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, it's the X's and Argos podcast with Argos color analyst Ben Grant and Coach JB.
Welcome to the X's and Argos pregame walkthrough brought to you by Something in the Water Brewing. My name's Ben Grant, joined as always by JB, and we are here to get you set for Week 8 in the 2025 CFL season. Your 1-5 Toronto Argonauts hosting the third place 3-2 Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the first half of a home-and-home series. Here's what's on the docket for this week. Chad Watch heated up this week thanks to a report from Farhan Lalji yesterday that said it was possible he could play Saturday. We'll go into that. There's more injuries, and that means more transactions as guys get banged up and put on the 6th game. More guys are signed. 3 new Argos walk through the door this week. Plus, we want to get into Wynton McManis and whether or not you have to sit Wynton McManis to get him healthy for later, or whether you can continue having him out there just clearly isn't a fully healthy Wynton McManis. And then lastly, before we get into all our usual topics, is this week a must-win game? I have not yet used my must-win armband. JB used his for the Ottawa win a few weeks ago. Will I use mine today? You'll find out. And also we'll go through all our usual stuff like Pick 6, our game preview, injury report, OCDC, one thing, put me down for 20, challenge flag, and we've got a ticket winner courtesy of Something in the Water Brewing. All that more coming up on this episode of the X's and Argos podcast. JB, the weather's nice. It's sunny outside. Nice little breeze in Toronto today. If you get down to Liberty Village, whether it's during the week, whether it's before an Argos game, you have to drop by Something in the Water Brewing. They got all sorts of great stuff going on there, including the new and improved Longboat Pale Ale, which you have to try. It is a great new flavor, and it's no longer actually classified as a pale ale. It's got a really, really nice taste to it. You've got to go and check that out as they've changed up a little bit of the brewing process. And when you're there, you'll notice some renovations going on because they are getting ready to welcome in even more opportunities for you at Something in the Water Brewing in the form of a taco stand. And that is going to be a fantastic pairing with all the award-winning beer that they've got at Something in the Water Brewing. So get down there, whether it's before you're heading out to BMO Field, whether it's after practice at Lamport Stadium. There's steps from both. It's the perfect thing to do on a sunny afternoon like today, JB. Let's get into it. JB, Chad Watch heated up this week. I want to read you the tweet from Farhan Lalji that got everybody talking. Farhan tweeted yesterday, Argos QB Chad Kelly had a CT scan Tuesday. Results to come back Wednesday. If the imaging is clear, he could get more first-team reps Wednesday. He got some Monday. Arbuckle's still very much in the mix to start this week. Kelly could dress or start. So when you first saw this, what was your reaction? And maybe I'll go to an update after that.
I would. I didn't have a great reaction to it. I don't feel like a return is imminent. I mean, I've been watching football for a long time, and when there are any complications on return from injury, those almost always mean significant delays. There are no minor delays in injury return. In my experience, so honestly, I am not optimistic about a Chad Kelly return this season.
I am optimistic about a return this season. I'm not optimistic about a return this week. I do think it is getting closer, honestly. And the fact that the coaching staff is now making an effort to get him into first team reps, getting him some reps with those guys that he hasn't really had a chance to work with at all this season, being limited in practice every game. I think it is now getting close. Obviously we're behind schedule. I think clearly there has to have been some sort of setback somewhere along the way, or it just was an injury that took a lot longer to heal than maybe they had originally forecasted, because initially they were looking at the 1 or 2 games, and we've talked about this a fair amount, but I think we are now back into that window, that 1 or 2 game window. I'll tell you what I saw at practice today, which was no Chad Kelly. So he was practicing yesterday in a limited fashion. Today, Chad Kelly wasn't at practice. I assume practice coincided with his medical appointment to get the data back on that CAT scan. And so it's possible that him not being there isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like that could be him going through with his doctor, going through the data on the leg, talking to the team about it. What are the chances in your mind that if things look good, if that CAT scan goes well and the imaging's clear, that tomorrow, Thursday, we're recording this Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow, Thursday, he is at their practice, is going full, is working with the first team. You're thinking this is a long shot at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think all of the signs are pointing to things are not progressing at the rate that they were hoping, and there isn't any undoing that. The body heals as the body's going to heal. And if the leg is not strong enough to run practice, I just don't see them immediately jumping into a game. I know this game is important. One might almost call it a must-win for the season, but I just can't believe that they would ramp him up in 2 days to play Winnipeg. I would be shocked.
I think if it comes back clear, I think he will dress. And that's my guess here. I don't know. I never know anything. Anytime I say anything on this podcast, I don't know anything. I'm speculating. I'm guessing. That would be my guess. If it comes back positive, the doctors clear him. They're like, you know what? Everything looks good. You're good to go. You can return. I think it's too much to jump right into a starting role, but I do think you could see him dress as the number 2 and maybe get into the game if need be in situations. But I think it would be more about getting him back into that routine of things. I think it's highly unlikely that he'd get cleared and immediately thrown back in as a starter, but again, you talked about you're not allowed to use must win anymore, JB. You have used your must win armband, but like you said, if the coaching staff believes like, hey, this is it, like we gotta empty the basket here, like everything we've got, we gotta throw at Winnipeg because we can't leave BMO Field without a win. Well, then maybe he does. Like maybe there is a chance that we see Chad Kelly. We'll know more as the week goes on. Again, recording midweek to give you a few days to be able to listen to this podcast prior to Saturday's game. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the most up-to-date prior to kickoff. We'll know a lot more tomorrow. We'll know a lot more Friday about Chad Kelly's status. But right now, JB is guessing no. I'm guessing second string if the report comes back clear, and continuing to sit on the injured list if it doesn't. So more injuries this week, JB, and that leads to more transactions. So the biggest injury has to be, well, literally and figuratively, Anim Dankwah, the right tackle who was already replacing the injured Ryan Hunter, who, as we talked about last week, was hit by a car and suffered a shoulder injury. He's on the 6-game injured list. Anim Dankwah's been placed on the 6-game injured list. He's out for the season reportedly after suffering a season-ending ACL tear. That there's a couple things on that. It looked like an injury when it happened. Like he hit the ground, was clearly in a lot of pain. I didn't think it was as serious as a season-ending ACL tear, only because he got up and he actually ran the next play. Now it was just a quarterback kneel down, but the fact that he got up and got into his stance on the line with a torn ACL like that's the report surprised me when I saw. I think it was Farhan again that reported that yesterday. I couldn't believe it, because usually if you, especially as a 350-pound man, you tear an ACL, you're not usually getting up and getting back into a football stance to run one more play. That blew me away. So that's a huge injury. Then also Tiadrick Hansen has been placed on the 6-game injured list with an elbow injury. That's a big special teams loss. And you've got Wynton McManis, who's not 100%. He was limited at practice yesterday. Anthony Lanier got banged up, didn't practice yesterday. He didn't play in the last quarter of the game in Montreal. And so they were in desperate need of a few players. So they brought in 3 guys. So Shane Richards, a player Toronto fans are familiar with, the former first overall draft pick from 2019, Oklahoma State tackle who has played guard and tackle last season, started 12 games at right guard for the Edmonton Elks. He was wearing number 66 at practice today, not the 68 that he used to wear. Jyran Mitchell is also back, the speedy running back that I think everybody was really impressed with in the final preseason game for the Argos, where he took off for a couple of explosive plays and looked extremely fast. And I think a lot of people were surprised at his release that he wasn't retained on the practice roster, but he's back wearing number 21 at practice today. And then Ricky Correia, defensive lineman you probably haven't heard of out of Cal. He's a run stuffer and he's going to work that interior. He may find himself having to get ready a little more quickly than some of the other guys based on the bodies that they continue to lose on that interior of the defensive line. But yeah, great run stuffer. He can spell guys in the passing game if needed. So those are the three signings, JB. I want to go out of sequence here because I want to go right to pick six because it's kind of about those three new signings. Pick six this week, when pick six, of course, brought to you by Something in the Water Brewing. We give you a chance to ask us questions every week. If we answer your question on the podcast, and your question could be submitted through Twitter, through Blue Sky, then you have a chance to win a 6-pack of beer from Something in the Water Brewing. This week's winner is Benu on Twitter, and he asked, of all the new players acquired this week, which would you dress in order to have a positive impact against Winnipeg? So I'm going to turn it to you, JB. The three new guys, you've got Shane Richards, the offensive lineman, you got Jyran Mitchell, the speed back, and you've got Ricky Correia, the interior defensive lineman. Who do you start this week to answer Benny's question?
Probably Correia. I think inside is going to be huge against Oliveira. There isn't much to go on Correia, but did play Cal for 4 years. The measurables are pretty good. The size is pretty good. So, yeah, you really hope that you found somebody who can kind of force them to double team and make it a little easier for cleaning up that inside run. So I would have to go him probably. We already know, I think, what Shane Richards is. I don't think there's any. I'm not sure what they're getting in him, but we know what he is.
Correia is a load. See him at practice today. He carries all of that listed weight, and I think most of it's in the lower half, which you like from defensive run stoppers. Like, be low to the ground. He's got those huge tree trunk legs, and just looks like a problem in the interior. So if you can get him some snaps and run situations, and there's going to be a lot of those against Winnipeg, then I think that it's hard to argue with you. I might go with Shane Richards for my pick to answer Benu's question, only because I don't know. I don't think he's going to start. John Boss is probably going to start at the right tackle spot the way that the Argos played the second half last week. I think that's going to be the line. I know Dockstader was banged up a little bit too, but I think it's going to be those same five guys that played the second half. John Boss at right tackle. Darius Sirocco was banged up last week. He wasn't able to practice full. And so with him being one of the 7 dressed linemen and Boss being one of the 7 dressed linemen last week, I don't know that you can dress Sirocco this week, and that leaves you with only 5 linemen. And so I actually think Shane Richards is going to get in there immediately. I think he's going to dress this week, and I think he's going to be the swing lineman. I'm not even sure there's another guy. I think the Argos so rarely do this. A lot of teams do, but the Argos never dress only 6 O-linemen. They always go 7, because if you lose 2, you're in trouble, because now you've got to use your defensive player that you've got prepared for O-line snaps. We've seen that happen to other teams multiple times. It rarely happens with the Toronto Argonauts because they dress 7. But I think this week, I just don't think there's just not a lot in the cupboard. I think Shane Richards is going to be the 6th, and I don't think there is a 7th. I think they have to load up elsewhere, and if injuries continue to be a problem, then they're going to have to look to one of the defensive linemen to take some O-line snaps. So that's why I think Shane Richards is going to be impactful. I think he'll be out there maybe in some of the tight end packages, just like Boss was previously. And he's a guy that can play at guard. He can play at tackle. So I'm going to say he is probably the most impactful guy we'll get this week. Although I'm also excited to see Jyran Mitchell. So I wouldn't mind seeing any of those three guys in this week. JB, is it time to sit Wynton McManis and let him get healthy? He has been laboring out there. He's tried, he got banged up in preseason. He tried to gut it out. You cannot question Wynton's toughness. And I think you can't even question, the problem is what makes this so hard is that even at 50%, he's still better than almost everybody else in the league. He's the best linebacker in the CFL. And so even an injured Wynton McManis is still better than the next guy. So the question is it time to sit him because you need him later and you just don't want to have that one setback during a game where that's it and you lose him for the season? What's your feel on this?
Well, connected to Kelly, if they feel legitimately that Kelly is likely to start next week, then I would keep McManis in on a reduced snap count. You obviously cannot just start him and hope he gets to the end. He when you watch the Montreal game, he just doesn't have more than 15 snaps in him, and even those 15 he's gutting out. So if this is, like I said, although not trademark must win, if this really important win happens against Winnipeg, then, and Chad Kelly's coming back, then I think you keep going with Wynton. But if you think Kelly's not coming back, then I think you have to seriously consider punting on the season and just shutting Wynton down and let him go get the surgery that he might need to fix his knee. And I think those are the kinds of decisions that I think this week is an absolute tipping point, because there's no point grinding Wynton's knee down to dust to finish 4-14.
It's bananas that we're talking about that at the end of July. It's July 23rd. And we're having these conversations because it's such an unusual spot for the Argos to find themselves in post 2019, I guess. But yeah, I think those are real considerations. If you watch McManis at practice today and you'd never seen the Argos before, and you said to someone who's watching this for the first time, who's the captain of this team? They would immediately say, oh, that guy, number 48. He was so vocal and so much the heartbeat of this team on the practice field. I think you want him on the field, and I don't know that he can play. I don't know that he can, he certainly can't play at the level that he's capable of playing at. He's really gutting it out. He's working hard to be out there and be there for his guys. But he makes such a difference vocally, energy-wise, even in drills, even in stretching, throughout all of this stuff, his presence elevates everyone else. And I haven't seen, he tries to do it from the sideline. It doesn't have the same impact. You saw it yesterday. I remember last week you talked about how hard the defense hits when he's on the field. Didn't you feel that last week in the first half against Montreal? Didn't it seem like the Toronto defense was different in the first half, and then once he got banged up, sort of faded again?
Yeah, absolutely. That quarter, they were really physical. They were flying to the ball, and the absence changed the whole tenor, which is why, I think the team is willing to let Wynton push himself to the edge because they know what an impact he has. And it may be a scenario where no further injury can be done. It's just simply a pain management, and maybe they find a good substitution pattern to kind of maximize them this week. But I do think this week is really important in terms of making a future decision, whether, if they don't win, or what Chad learned in his CAT scan. Those are big time decisions that'll happen after Saturday, because clearly you'd love to have at least one more season of Wynton, and at a certain point you have to be concerned about long-term injury.
And knees unfortunately aren't usually the kind of injury where you can just play on it without any risk of further injury. Usually usually that is the risk. And you can wear a brace, you can tape yourself up all you want, but it's going to be a risk when he's out there, because every step, every full extension, it's when you're like on the full run, like that's when we've seen Wynton pull up in games, is when he's had to flat out run, going right back to the opener in Montreal. That's when it's caused problems for him, because it's just so much stress to put on an injured body part, especially one with so many intricacies to it as a knee. I do worry about that. At the same time, I think my gut is that he's going to play this week, and I think the way they can get around it, like that 6 O lineman problem, may be a blessing in disguise, in that usually you need Wynton to play a ton of special teams. Maybe if you're only dressing 6 O linemen, maybe you can get away with Wynton playing no special teams at all. You only have him out there as a middle backer. Backers don't usually have that luxury. They are usually on a lot of special teams, but you've got that extra dress spot. You just have Wynton out there for 15 defensive snaps, and that's it, or whatever the count is. And you've got Aaron Casey, who looks fantastic. You've got Dark Angelo. You've got Judge. Like, they've got guys that can go in there, Varga, who can go in and make plays. I especially have been impressed with Aaron Casey. And so I think the level of play will be fine. And if you can like space out those snaps so you still get that on-field leadership from McManis, and he doesn't have to play those teams packages, then I think that's the way to go. That's the way I would lean if I were on the Toronto coaching staff. All right, JB, is this a must-win game? You don't get to answer this because you have already used your must-win armband. I'm going to tell you right now, and you can tell me I'm wrong or agree with me. I'm going to say this is not a must-win game. It's a very important game. Of course, they really should win. They should do everything they can to win. I don't think the season is lost if they don't, and here's why. Hamilton's going to BC this week. Montreal is going to Calgary. I think both of those teams lose this week. I think Hamilton loses to BC. I think Montreal, they're without Alexander now for the next 6 weeks. Hamilton, I think they're going to be in tough against the Lions, who are getting pretty desperate down in 4th at 3-4. So I would say if you lose this week, you're still 3 games back, and you're 3 games back from a Hamilton team that I'm just still not that worried about, and Montreal, who hasn't proven they can win games without Davis Alexander. So I think there is still going to be time to get back into it. Now, if Toronto loses this week and one of those 2 teams wins, next week becomes your must-win game, and that's probably when I will throw my must-win armband into the ring, JB. Your thoughts? Am I delusional? How do you see it?
No, I don't think delusional. I think they will have to. I mean, for sure, next week is absolutely a must-win.
If they lose this week,
yeah. If they lose this week, I mean, it's all very dependent on what happens with the other team. I would argue this week is more important because they're at home as opposed to being on the road. And if they don't win at home, it's not easy to go on the road with a team that maybe doesn't 100% believe that they can win. And go beat Winnipeg. And Winnipeg is not very happy right now. They just lost twice to Calgary. So, yeah, I don't know which one is the must win. But I mean, paired together, I think this is essentially the season. We will know at the end of these 2 games whether there is, this is going to be, a comeback, or this is just unfortunately a lost season.
And with that, let's segue into the game preview. This is a tough game. It was always going to be a tough game because Toronto has beaten Winnipeg in 2 of the last 3 Grey Cups. And so the Blue Bombers are not Argos fans. When they see that Argos jersey, they see fire in their eyes, the way that Hamilton does, the way that it means something different for Winnipeg than it does for Toronto in that sense. You add to that the fact that Winnipeg's not happy right now. They just lost 2 games to Calgary, like you said. They are in 3rd place, which is not familiar territory. Well, they were down at the bottom last year for a little bit, but it's not a place they're comfortable. They've got a quarterback who's banged up, although Zach Collaros, with that big hit that he took suffering what's being listed as a neck injury, was full at practice yesterday. I expect him to be full again today. He will probably play. This is not going to be an easy game for the Argos. Winnipeg feels they need it. If they drop this game to 3-3, they're suddenly in jeopardy in terms of their playoff lives. And Toronto on the other side, we've already documented how important that is. You've got Hamilton at 4-2, Montreal at 4-2. You've lost the tiebreakers against both those teams already. Montreal, Hamilton, you could still win the tiebreaker, but they're down. And then Ottawa behind Toronto at 1-6, and obviously heading in the wrong direction there. So yeah, this is a massive game. It's also Afro-Caribbean night at BMO Field, and that's gonna create a lot of a fun atmosphere. They had a great social media piece this week. If you haven't seen it yet, check out Toronto Argonauts social media, where they had Judge, Brissett, and McManis tasting some very spicy Caribbean dishes. And really testing their coolness. And I was so impressed with Brissett. Didn't flinch at all, even with the spiciest dish, didn't flinch. Wynton called him out a little bit on not putting enough sauce on, but if you haven't seen that piece yet, it is fantastic. And yeah, I think it's going to be a show down at BMO Field Saturday. So if you haven't yet got your tickets, make sure you get them Saturday night, 7:00 at BMO Field as the Argos host Winnipeg. All right, JB, let's get into this injury report. We've documented most of Toronto's injuries. Let me just go through the ones I didn't mention, because there was some good news. We really documented the bad stuff. So Jack Cassar back practicing, which is good, limited, but he's coming back from that adductor injury. He's been out for a long time. Darius Sirocco limited with the foot injury. Sage Dockstader was limited yesterday, looked a little better today, so I think he's moving in the right direction to be able to play Saturday. Brian Harlamana, this is huge, practiced full yesterday. His absence on special teams has been so costly. We've talked about it a lot. He and Cassar are badly missed out there. And so him being back is a massive addition this week. Tyson Hergut did not practice yesterday. Deontay McMahon was limited at practice. And Ryder Varga limited as well at practice. And then everyone else we've talked about, from Wynton McManis to Teodric Hansen to Anim Dankwah, those have been covered. On the other side of the ball for Winnipeg, the two big ones, Zach Halaras, obviously with the neck injury, practiced full. Stanley Bryant didn't practice with the ankle injury. That is big, again, literally and figuratively. The one I want to keep my eye on is Mike Benson, the long snapper who missed with a hip injury, did not practice yesterday. Anytime you have to look at messing around with any part of that long snap operation, whether it's holder, kicker, punter, long snapper, I think you have to have some caution, because there are problems that result from that. So I think that actually the Mike Benson injury could be something that comes up on game day. So we'll have to see. All right, JB, it is time for your favorite segment and mine. It is OCDC. For OCDC, JB will handle the defense. I will handle the offense. We will start with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. JB, I'm going to turn it over to you first. If you are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, are you just going to send 7 every play, or do you have more of a fine-tuned approach to stopping this probably Nick Arbuckle-led Toronto offense?
Well, I mean, the film in the Montreal game is not encouraging in that second half, in terms of being able to pick up a massive blitz. So there definitely will be heat in that first quarter where they test how well can they handle 5, 6, 7 guys if they bring that level of heat. And the Argos are absolutely going to have to show that they can pick it up and punish, or it's going to be the go-to every time there's an obvious passing down. If you're Winnipeg, absolutely, you're trying to get after the quarterback. I don't think there's any fear of getting burned. I think that you don't look at the running game as a problem. There's only so much you can do with screens and passing out the backfield. I think it's a nice addition if McMahon is 100, but it's nothing that Winnipeg is going to be concerned about. I think they will want to mix in some deep coverage to make sure Toronto doesn't have their big play, which they often need rather than being able to string plays together. But the book on Toronto definitely has been to bring heat and play man, and I can't imagine that Winnipeg's going to change that.
Switching to the offensive side of the ball, I think Winnipeg's plan this week should be run, run, run more, test that interior. That's where Toronto is banged up. It's all through the middle, right? That's where they're missing guys. The edges are fine and healthier and coming back. The corners on the outside are there. Sam linebacker, there hasn't really been much switch as of late. It's the defensive tackle spots. It's the linebacker spots. You want to force everybody in the middle to have to come in to stop that run. And that's where you're going to get your big plays. So you pound the ball, you pound the ball, you pound the ball, you try and get your 5 or 6 yards a carrier. And then you try and find Dembski in behind the linebackers on those crossers. You take your occasional deep shot, obviously, but I think the heart of this attack has to be run, 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 play action, drop it in over top of the linebackers. Because we've seen from Toronto, like when teams are running the ball successfully, guys will come in and start doing other guys' jobs, like because they have to. There's no choice. Like you can't just sit back and let other teams get 6 yards per carry, and so people start to creep up, and that's what provides offenses with opportunities to take strikes downfield. So that's going to be the heart of my plan this week if I were the Winnipeg Blue Bombers offensive coordinator. Let's switch over to the good guys, JB. You started off. What is Toronto's defensive plan? How do you shut down Zach Collaros? He's without some weapons. Dalton Schoen out, for example. But, Dembski looked alive last week, and they've got that huge running game. How does Toronto shut it down?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hope Correia is up to the task in terms of jumping in and joining the rotation. You definitely want to keep Oliveira from getting going. The team feeds off him, and then you start fighting a two-front war, and then you're really in trouble. Winnipeg is not an explosive offensive team. Offensively, they're not what they were last year or certainly 2 years ago. They do not have any big plus 30 plays. So they are a team that kind of matriculates down the field. They're a ball possession team. They're moving the ball. They have good efficiency and a good running game. They're very good in the red zone. But they're not a team that's going to blow the doors off you. So for me, I think you're definitely in that first half focusing on keeping Oliveira under control and not allowing 10, 12, 15-yard runs really kind of gashing you. And you have to double Dembski. Dembski, like Lawler, can be a one-man wrecking crew. And so you have to take Dembski out and say, if you're going to beat us, it's not going to be with Nick Dembski, and it's not going to be with Oliveira. And I think you have to alternate between those two. But those have to be the two focuses. And if you can achieve that, I don't think Winnipeg is as deep or as loaded. I don't think Collaros is at the level he's been in the past. I think it's a winnable game. I mean, Winnipeg has not beaten very many good teams this year. So I don't really know how good Winnipeg is, to be honest. I think this is an opportunity for the defense to really help out here if they can keep Oliveira under control and if they can keep Dembski under control.
Switching to the offensive side of the ball, I think part of the offense's job this week is going to be giving the defense time, like to allow for what you're talking about. You cannot have a bunch of defenders who are gassed out there to shut down Oliveira, to shut down Dembski. This is going to require some work, and so you can't be way down in that time of possession battle. And so I'm going to turn that to the offense, where part of your responsibility this week is sustaining long drives. You cannot have the 2 and outs that we saw in the second half of last week against Montreal, where it just felt like 2 and out after 2 and out after 2 and out. You have to take up time. You have to let the defense rest. You also have to score points too, and I think that's a good way to do it this week. I think Winnipeg is going to blitz a lot, because why wouldn't you? Like you talked about, like they couldn't pick it up well, and so if that's what's going to be happening, then you're going to have to get the ball out quickly. And so quick passes, I refer to the Cody Fajardo Montreal offense from last year, that sort of 5-yard all hooks that is so frustrating to watch, the quick screens, the all hooks, but it can work. And if it can really draw a defense up tight as well, and then you can take your shot plays. But I think the heart of this game plan has to be 5-yard passes, quick passes. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to use your running backs in sort of an extension of the run game out of the backfield on swing routes, on flat routes, and the occasional wheel. Maybe you can find a bust there and take a shot. But I think you got to get the ball out of Arbuckle's hands quickly. You can't afford to have him taking shots or potentially turning the ball over in another instance of him getting hit as he's trying to make that throw. So quick hitters. For explosive plays, it's going to come from the backfield. I do think we'll see some shots still to Coxie. We've seen Arbuckle take those when he gets Coxie one-on-one. I don't really consider that part of the game plan. Like I think that's a common sense thing that you do every so often. But I think the explosiveness from the game plan is going to come out in misdirection. I really want to see more jet action. I want to see more counters, and that's where if you can get a situation where I don't care if it's LeBourne, McMahon, or Mitchell, any one of those guys in space one-on-one, he's gone. And I think Toronto's got to set that up a little better this week. And I think it starts with some misdirection in the backfield. So that is my plan. JB, I'll go first for one thing. Special teams. There needs to be, my one thing this week is, I was going to say a special teams touchdown, but I'm not going to say special teams touchdown. I'm going to say you need a huge special teams play. Now, I know I talked about Benson still being banged up. LaRue's been in there for the last few weeks for Winnipeg, but we're still talking about a rookie first-year player out of Laval as a long snapper. I still feel like there's opportunities there to make a play, as well as he's played. Anytime you've got a first-year player in that role, I think there's an opportunity. And so I'm looking for the defense to either block a kick, block a field goal, or special teams touchdown, punt return, kick return, whatever it is, cause a turnover on their coverage team. I want a huge special teams play. That is my one thing. If they get that, I think the Argos win. What is your one thing, JB?
Well, mine is specials as well. I think I actually did this a little earlier, but I'm doing it again. And for me, Winnipeg is good at punt return, and Toronto is worst in the league at punt return average for the opponent. So I want Toronto. Right now, Toronto's at 15 yards. Allowing for an opponent's punt return. And I want that under 10. So under 10 would have them in the top 5. So that's the goal. I think you have to. Winnipeg is good at the punt return. They have to win that battle. That's something they can do. That's something that's not dependent upon Wynton. It's not dependent upon who the quarterback is. That is something that they can achieve. Hopefully Kassar plays. But I think that's something they should really focus on to try and keep Winnipeg's field position under control. So under 10 yards, opponent punt return average.
It's time for Put Me Down for 20. We were both small-time winners last week, JB. We both went 1-1, but we had plus money return on all of our bets. I came close to hitting it big when Tavares McFadden picked off Alexander on the sideline on that out route. I thought he was gone, and that would have cashed in at plus 650 for me. He got stopped at like the 10-yard line, though, by Alexander. Come back inside, Tavares. I needed that 650. So I lost on that one. I won on Calgary plus 155, which I still couldn't believe they were offering. For you bet up Nick Arbuckle's passing yards to 300. That did not hit at plus 115. But you hit on your marked up over BC Saskatchewan. You had an over 55.5 that you created for yourself for plus 124, and you did win on that one. You are now sitting at 224 golden fleeces. I'm right behind you at 215.5 golden fleeces. But we were both in the black which is unusual. I don't think that's ever happened by week 8 of the CFL season. So the question, JB, where are you going with your bets for this week?
Well, I'm picking the Argos to win. I think they have to win. It's not officially a must win. I think they have to win. I thought they played Montreal really tough. A couple of unfortunate mistakes ended up costing them, and they ran into a quarterback who pulled some miracle moves. But I thought that game was really well played by Toronto. A heartbreaker, I'm sure, for the team with how hard they tried and just coming up short. But even with the record, they're not Ottawa. This is a team that is right there, and hopefully are able to make some turns. I like Montreal. I like Toronto to win at home. It's an absolute crucial game. You do not want to go to Winnipeg with the season on the line, and they're at 155, or 158, in fact, even to win. So, like, home dog. I'm gonna ride the home dog.
And what's your non-Argos bet?
My non-Argos is I do love my over-unders now. I've definitely grown appreciative of it. I have Calgary, Montreal under 40.5 at plus 300. So a Calgary, Montreal rock fight is
Under
what I'm
40
seeing.
and a half?
Yeah.
What's the original number? How much you bring? You're bringing that down by like 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Swinging. All right, I am also swinging for the fences. And just before I swing for the fences, let me remind you that you should never take any of our bets seriously. We certainly don't. We're throwing around fictional golden fleeces. So if you're going to bet your hard-earned money, make sure you only ever bet what you're happy to lose as the cost of entertainment. And you probably shouldn't listen to anything that we tell you. With that said, I've got 2 bets that are both at plus 400 this week, JB. Dejan Brissett touchdown, which I feel like this was like an error on FanDuel's part where I saw this number, but it's at plus 400 right now. So I'm jumping all over that with 10 golden fleeces. And then I've got the Edmonton Elks also at plus 400 to beat Saskatchewan outright. It's on the road. It's the Elks, but the Elks are not bad enough a team to get plus 400 on the money line, so I just feel that is worth my 10 golden fleeces. Into challenge flag, and last week was a rough one for you. After going undefeated in week 6, you followed that up by going 1-3 last week, which made it easy for me. I had Calgary over Winnipeg. That one did not work for you as you had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, so I get the point. And you're still leading, though. You've got 4. I've got 3 as we head into week 8. Your record overall on picks for the year is still positive. 15 wins, 12 losses. Let's see what you've got for week 8 and which pick I will throw my challenge flag on. So first up, Montreal at Calgary. Alouettes or Stampeders, JB?
It's too bad Davis was not playing, because that could be really probably the game of the season. I would really be excited, but I loved Calgary when we did our power poll. I don't know why I got off them last week, but I like Calgary here at home.
Edmonton at Saskatchewan is the next one. Your Elks, JB.
Yeah, I will safely take my Saskatchewans at home.
Yeah, I think they're 10-point favorites at home. Winnipeg at Toronto. Where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I have Toronto. I just think they're going to gut this out.
It would be so big. Like if they can find it. They're so banged up right now, but they haven't lost the fire. That's the thing. Like if they can find a way, it would have been last week. Like in Montreal, they lost by a point. If they had found a way to win that, it would have been such a big feeling.
It tilts the season record wise. I mean, that's why it was so disheartening after the loss, because it was such a season tilting loss. Yeah,
it was gutting. And then lastly, Hamilton at BC. Where are you going with this one for your pick?
BC at home. They have to. I mean, look, maybe they're just not very good, and Winnipeg has only beaten BC, and this may be a case of Winnipeg and BC are just not very good. But I'm gonna go with BC one more time at home, and then if they let me down, then they may join the all caps on my no fly list.
I think that's got to be the game I challenge. Like, I actually think BC is going to win, but I don't feel confident enough with it. And the others are picks that I would probably make. Like, I'm tempted to take Edmonton, but I don't want to take a 10-point underdog on challenge flag. That doesn't, like, I'm not getting any points with it. So it doesn't make sense for me. I think Toronto wins against Winnipeg. I think Calgary beats Montreal. So I think I'll throw the challenge flag there. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. So I will say Hamilton will beat the BC Lions, even though earlier I said I expected BC to win that game, which I do. But yeah, these are the same picks I would have. So that's the one I'm going to challenge.
Sometimes a man has to hedge.
Sometimes a man has to hedge. And I'm sort of hedging here. It's not quite like your hedges, but
All right.
it's in the conversation. We will end things this week with our ticket draw winner. Tickets courtesy of Something in the Water Brewing. They give away their pair of tickets every home game to the Toronto Argonauts, and we do a draw. If you want to enter the draw for the next Argos home game, just look on social media on Twitter at Ben_Grant or on Blue Sky at Coach Ben Grant, and you can look for a tweet that asks you to repost or retweet to enter this contest to win a pair of tickets. And that is what Scallion did on Blue Sky. Scallion, you are the winner this week of a pair of tickets from Something in the Water Brewing. So I will get in touch with you to get your particulars, and you will be set up courtesy of Something in the Water Brewing to watch the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Toronto Argonauts on Saturday. That will just about wrap things up for us this week, JB. It's a big one. Action gets underway Thursday, Montreal at Calgary. Friday is Edmonton at Saskatchewan. Saturday night, Winnipeg at Toronto. If you are not going to be there in person, and you should be, 7 o'clock start, make sure you catch the broadcast on TSN 1050 with Mike Hogan and myself doing the play-by-play and color analysis. And then the week wraps up Sunday in BC as the Hamilton Tiger Cats play the BC Lions. That will just about do it for us on this pregame walkthrough edition of the X's and Argos podcast. For JB, this is Ben Grant saying so long, and may all your pre-snap reads be good ones. I'll see ya.
Toronto Argos, go, go, go. Pull together, fight the foe.